To second.
Okay. Yeah, here we go. I'm sorry. We are here today with the Blue Generation Project. My name is Peter. I work for the Active Bulgarian Society with my colleague Kirill. We are here with Peter Grønkjær from Aarhus University in Denmark, and we are going to talk about the blue economy and how we can make young people choose a career path in the blue economy. So, Peter, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm glad to meet both of you.
You too. Could you start out by telling us a little bit about sorry, my bad. Could you start out by just introducing yourself?
Yes, as you said, my name is Peter Grønkjær. I'm a professor in marine biology at Aarhus University in Denmark. I guess a little bit about my background. I grew up in a coastal society on the west coast of Denmark and stayed there, took my high school exams, and had always been really interested in marine biology, fisheries biology, and the ocean as such. So I decided to study biology and moved away from the hometown to Aarhus, where I am now, and started my biology studies. And they've slowly led me all the way through where I am now. And if needed, I can elaborate maybe a little bit more on the kind of path that I took from moving from.
Yes, that would be very nice to maybe inspire other young people who might be on the verge of choosing what they want to do with their careers.
Yeah. So basically, I went to Aarhus to study biology. There's no specific marine biology education here, but you get a background that includes marine biology as well. So I started studying here. I did 2.5 years of studies at Aarhus. And then I wanted to add on even more marine biology. So I went to Norway to study marine biology with focus on marine biology for a year at Tromsø University in the northern part of Norway. I returned back to Aarhus again and started a master's here, but was able to switch over to do a PhD. So before finishing a master's, I converted that to a PhD. And in Denmark, a PhD is equal to 3 years full-time study. So I had those. And as part of my PhD, I collaborated with Kiel University in Germany. So most of my field work that took place in the Baltic Sea was conducted with Kiel University. So basically, I spent close to half my time abroad doing PhD. So that's very common when you do a PhD, that you are at your kind of your home university, but you also go and work with colleagues that are interested in the same things as you in other countries. So it's a very good way of learning even more. So that was kind of my educational background, and I ended up with a PhD in marine science.
Looking back at your education path, is there anything that you might want to do different, that you might advise others who would want to maybe follow a path similar to yours?
I don't think so. I think I've been really lucky in many of the choices that I have done. I do think that people should try to get parts of their education from somewhere else, because a university education is long, and somehow it shapes how you see the world. And if that input only comes from one place, it might be a little bit kind of one-sided. So go out, experience how people perceive both kind of the world that we learn about, but also how they teach, how they perceive the thing, like how they treat students and so on. I think that's a really good kind of input to get. So especially when you're young, go and experience as much as possible, but also keep a focus on what it is you want, because it's easy also to get distracted when you move from place to place. So it should always be with your kind of your goal inside, but take advantage of all the opportunities there are to experience different things.
Nice. So, as professor of marine ecology at Aarhus University, you spend a lot of hours both teaching but also doing research yourself. Could you maybe tell us some of the projects you're working on currently?
Yeah, I can do that, but maybe kind of we stop with me getting a PhD. So there's actually a very long stretch of, you can say, experiences that are needed to get to the point where I am now. So I think that would also be interesting, because if your aim is to be a professor in marine biology, getting a PhD is kind of the first step on the ladder, because then your kind of continued education is, of course, part of the work that you have. So often for young students in any field with a PhD who wants to continue an academic career, they need to move out again because you need to have this kind of postgraduate or postdoctoral experience. So often you have short-term 1, 2, 3 year projects that you are employed. Either you find the money yourself, apply for the money, or someone at a university or a research institution have money and they employ you to do specific projects. And I did the same thing. I moved to Canada, was there a little more than a year, then returned to Aarhus on funds that a professor at Aarhus University had gathered, and I applied for the position and was here. So I was able to return again to the same place where I got my PhD, but again on a short-term contract, and was on money that I found, applied for myself, and projects that I managed to apply for. And so basically from the time I got my PhD to I got my first permanent position, it was almost 10 years.
Wow.
Different short-term projects. But for the last, you can say, 5 years, I was kind of on a track, kind of a tenure track towards a permanent position. So it wasn't 10 years in a limbo at all. So after 10 years, I got a permanent position as an associate professor in marine biology, and then I got my full professorship basically 10 years after that. And then back to your question, what am I doing? What kinds of projects are I'm involved in right now? And I span really broadly. I mean, my expertise is in fisheries, fish ecology, and climate. So I have a wide range of kind of climate-related projects related to fisheries resources. How are they affected by both fisheries, but maybe especially climate right now? How are fisheries population going to change, and how is that going to affect how we can utilize these resources without overutilizing them and drive the fish populations to a collapse? So I work with, again, a lot of international colleagues this type of work is really international because the oceans and the fish stocks are shared by many countries, and we all have an interest in maintaining sustainable fish population and sustainable fisheries. So I'm much involved, especially in the North Atlantic, with Faroese colleagues, Greenlandic colleagues. We expect big changes in that part of the world, and it's a part of the world where fisheries is really important. So we're both trying to predict what is happening, and to do that, we often have to look back in time to see how oceans have changed and how that has affected the fish resources. So that's kind of what I do on a large scale. And then more locally here in Denmark, I'm deeply involved in trying to ensure that fisheries is not disturbing the kind of coastal environments around Denmark and Europe. And we work closely together to understand how we can use different kind of activities to reduce the impact of fishery while still maintaining a fishery that generates food and income to the Danish society. So it's all from trying to understand how different types of fishing gear affects the environment, using that to understand how we can protect valuable biodiversity, but by maybe protecting some environments and allowing fisheries to go on in other environments and habitats. And that, of course, has a lot of implication for fishery and marine protection as such. So this is kind of the two sides, a local side where I try to use my knowledge very directly in the management of marine environments, and then this more, you can say, research-heavy side where we try to understand basically the global ocean and how that interacts with climate.
Interesting. So the Blue Generation project is, of course, an international project, and you said that your work is, of course, is often international and across countries. Would you say you learn a lot working international because people have different experiences from different countries and parts of the world?
I do. I learn a lot from working with international colleagues, and the same thing, the same argument I use for going abroad when you are a student applies when you are a well-tenured professor. I mean, both in ways of the techniques that we learn. I mean, we can't be experts in all the relevant techniques. We can try to set together teams with techniques that supplement and complement each other so that we can see a problem from many angles. And often you'd have to go abroad to get that view. Also to kind of, again, have perspective of other nations and other traditions and how you do this. So you gain both kind of that view, and then you get access to techniques that you don't master yourself. And in this way, you are able to maybe come up with better answers to some of the big problems.
So as a professor, you teach a lot, and is the concept of the blue economy, has that been yet been incorporated into your lectures? Or,
yes, I mean we do teach a lot, and I mean the blue economy. I mean, of course, we're dealing with fishes and fisheries, a good part of the blue economy. But of course, we're also dealing with how can that be sustained in a time where a lot of other different activities are either taking place or being planned on the marine territory. And how, for instance, is all of this related to, you can say, tourism, ecotourism, Denmark is a small country with a large coastline. A lot of our tourism is focused on having clean oceans, clean beaches, active small societies that are interesting to visit. So all of that is, of course, a part of teaching when you teach, even as I teach with the focus on fisheries resources and so on, then all of the other things are kind of really important in relation to how fishing can go on without too much interfering with and interference from other activities that underlie the blue economy. And actually, as a concrete example, we have students presenting on a range of kind of important questions regarding marine environment and the blue economy. And a lot of our students kind of focus, actually, when they can choose freely from these 70 questions, on projects that are closely related to the blue economy, such as ecotourism, wind farms, different kinds of physical infrastructure.
Sounds like the awareness of blue economy definitely is high in Denmark. Would you say there's also a broad field of development with open job positions and maybe even funding behind?
There are very good opportunities for marine biologists and people working with the blue economy in Denmark right now. In all the time I've been a university teacher, I've never experienced a similar focus as what we are seeing now. Our students get jobs basically right after graduating, and that's a very new situation. And I think it is common for biology as such and other fields, but I think it's more pronounced for people with a background in marine ecology, and that's really good to see, and they do get really interesting job right from the start, and a lot of responsibility because there's a big need for people with this type of background.
Wow, that's crazy, because I don't even think that's the case for a lot of other studies and opportunities where you get into job right away. So yeah, that's definitely interesting. What about for the rest of Europe? Do you know if that's the case too, or if we are a little more privileged in Denmark?
Most of my experience is kind of Northern Europe, Germany, Norway, Sweden, France, and I see that it's kind of the same trend. I mean, they are basically doing the same transition with focus on blue economy. So there's a lot of my foreign students and postdocs that have gone on to work in blue economy, both with private companies and academia. So it is, I believe, not just a Danish phenomenon. It's much larger than this. And what we do here, we can see is mirrored in Germany, the Netherlands, Belgium, France.
Nice.
Especially in the field of wind farms and so on, it's very obvious that this is something going on everywhere.
So implementing blue economy into our society and the way we think in general is, of course, a very big process that's going to take a long time. What do you think are some of the biggest obstacles and problems that are hindering development within your sphere or within blue economy?
I think that some of the biggest obstacles or problems related to a fast-growing blue economy is that it has to happen in a sustainable way when we think about nature protection. So, I mean, at the same time as we have a lot of focus on activities on the ocean territories, there's also a lot of focus on biodiversity and the marine habitat. So we can't just push down the speeder on the blue economy without making sure that our activities do not harm the marine to a point that is unsustainable. And you can, I mean, it's difficult, it's not right to say that this is a hindrance. It's just the basic playing ground or rule book for developing projects is that you have to have that. For some, it might be seen as a hindrance, but it shouldn't be formulated as a hindrance. It's just a kind of basic kind of setting for these kinds of blue economy projects. And I think, I mean, in Denmark right now, I guess one of the big problems is actually getting knowledge and the hands needed to carry through with this. I would say of kind of the real problems, it would actually be expertise, people who actually want to go into this or who are ready to go into this. And so I think that could be what is kind of stopping it. And it means both developing the projects, but also having people knowledgeable about marine science, marine environment that can guide it in a sustainable direction. So, because without these people, I mean, the blue economy projects will be slowed down.
Interesting. Finally, are you optimistic about the future?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I am. I'm also, I mean, I'm optimistic that the blue economy is on the rise. I'm also keeping a very close eye on how the blue economy is behaving, how it's affecting the environment, how this competition between different sectors is going to play out. So it has great potential, but it also has the need to be carried out in a very responsible manner, because I think, unlike on land, where you have people every day that can actually see the consequences of your actions by looking at just looking out their windows. That is not possible when you move into the ocean. So there you have to have dedicated people that keep an eye on what is going on for the benefit of the whole population, because they are not able to do this. So there is a difference between these type of projects on land and in the sea. In the sea, it needs a lot of more people who are educated, who are engaged, than similar projects would have on land.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you would like to add before we round out?
No, I think you managed to ask me all the things, all the questions needed to kind of say what I wanted to say. So I think
thank
that's
you
good.
so much for taking time.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it was nice talking to you both.
Yeah. You too.
Yeah, take care and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Have a nice day.
Bye.